Are you hearing us?
What happened?
Can you hear
Did you
me?
hear Cody?
No, what'd you say? We're live. we are definitely live. Hold on just a sec.
I'll just be quiet now.
Okay.
Cody?
No, what'd you What's up, everybody? How's it going? I apologize for this being late, but we are about to get this thing kicked off. Skype is a bitch, but the show must go on. So first we're going to do a little sound check. So I'll start with CP. Say hello, CP.
I don't know if you can't hear the end of Goodfellas playing over my head, but yeah, hi.
That's always a good thing to hear over your head. Let's go Cody Leach.
Egg noodles and ketchup.
Ugh. What's up, Mother Mayhem? We got Bryan the Lomax.
The one and only. Hello.
Yep. And then we got a very special guest, Zach from Cavern of Terror. Say something, Zach.
I have 2 bottles of water on my desk.
Sweet. Okay, let us know if you guys can hear us, and then we'll kick this thing off. So.
Yeah, Zach, if you finish one of those bottles, then you have a multi-purpose empty.
I
Yeah.
had 2.
Hear voices, no pictures. That's fine. You're good. Okay, we're going to start the intro.
Hey.
Hey.
Everyone sounds good besides Lee.
What? Okay, we'll fix me. All right.
Egg noodles and Chantix.
What's the problem with me? Okay.
Well, that was only one person, so no one's confirmed it yet.
Okay.
Maybe he just doesn't like your voice.
Could be. I don't blame him.
Funny, I was like...
Starting intro now.
We can hear you. Zach has 2 water bottles. I can prove it. Okay, I guess we're good.
How can you... Oh.
You sound muffled or something.
I sound a little muffled. Let me open up.
Yeah.
I also sent you a link in our stream chat.
Check 1, 2. Check.
It's all stop.
Tried the volume on my... on my actual mic.
Sound no tick.
Sounds good now. Okay. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a late in multiple ways Scream stream. But we got our schedules lined up. We got Skype fixed, and so now we're ready to get this thing rolling. First off, I want to say hello to my guests. Cody, how are you doing today, brother?
I am in the middle of a very physically and emotionally exhausting week, but I'm good.
That's awesome. Bryan, what time is it there, Bryan?
22 minutes past 11.
Oh wow, so that's not too bad. Are you really tired?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm good.
That's good. CP?
Hi. I'm here to emotionally support Cody.
Thank you. Yes.
I have to welcome one of the original members of Scream Stream. Really exciting to have him here. Also a really good friend of Dylan Clancy, Mr. Zach from Cavern of Terror. Zach, how are you doing?
I am fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Poor Zach had to wait for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But yeah, we're going to get this thing rolling. I'm going to say hi to some people in the chat. Renegade Hero, what's up, Megan? Matthew Meekins, Heartbreaker, what's up, Colton? Andrew Loves Gore. Ninglindo, Movie Coin Collector, The Overlord. Rod Simmons, Neil Andrew Hudson, Mr. Pebbles. We got Mikey Weiss. What's up, man? Flexing muscles for me. Got a lot of beautiful people in the chat, and I will say Dylan Clancy's family, Robin Clancy, I believe, is here, which is really awesome. Hello, Robin. Thank you for joining us. I'm a little nervous, but you know what? Dylan's worth it, and Dylan's worth my nerves. So I wanted to do something nice for Dylan, and you know what? I'm not gonna make this, a cry fest, because Dylan wouldn't want that. I'm gonna make this fun. We're gonna talk about movies, and we'll do some movie news too. In probably the second hour of this. But this is for Dylan Clancy. He was a good friend of mine. You know what? I'll start by giving the floor to Zach, because Zach developed quite the relationship with Dylan as well. Zach, tell me a little bit of your backstory with Dylan. How'd you guys meet?
Well, we met through Killer Flicks way back in the day when I first was on there. And the funny story is, he actually thought I didn't like him.
That sounds like Dylan.
He thought I didn't like him. I was like, okay, so I'm going to send him a message and talk to him. And after that, we clicked on 2000s horror, because that's what I was covering for a long time at the very beginning of my channel. It's just a lot of early 2000s horror. So we talked about the Scream movies, talked about Urban Legend. He was a big fan of that. Wrong Turn too, as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I can't even scratch the surface with, because I know Dylan was a movie lover in general, and I know he loved Rob Zombie. I know he loved Tarantino probably the most, but he was just a movie lover. We would talk about movies constantly. That would make up like 95% of our conversations with each other, just talking about what we thought of certain movies. Dylan actually had, I guess he had kind of like an inside scoop on a lot. Like he actually.
Didn't he have acting credits? Didn't he actually do some extra work too?
Yes, he was actually in 31 with his then fiance Declan, and I guess just so I can jump over to Declan a little bit, and I'll go ahead and tell kind of my story of how we met. Pretty much like right after I started Killer Flicks, we had, I'm gonna guess, 50 members total, and Dylan was one of those 50 members. And he sent me a message on Facebook, and we just kind of struck up this friendship through there, just talking about movies and whatnot. But one thing I noticed about Dylan was he was just constantly in Killer Flicks, talking with everybody, posting updates. I was like, wow, this kid, this young little kid, he was probably like in his early 20s, I think. He's
exactly Emily's age, to the day.
Yeah, very young. And I was just like, he's like, I think Dylan was wise among his years, because his movie knowledge was extremely vast. Like I could pretty much throw out any movie to Dylan and he'd seen it. He's just this guy that loved movies so much that he would just bathe in them. And so we developed this friendship through Killer Flicks, and we became so close that I told him, I was like, Dylan, I can't do this by myself. Would you become an admin? And he was just like on cloud nine. He was like, oh my God, I love this site so much. I can see the future of this site. And so, yeah, I made him an admin, and then, the rest is history. But, from the moment I made him admin, he was just constantly in the group, and our friendship grew. And, it's just so tragic. After 2 years of such a strong friendship, you never dare expect something like this to happen. And if I could throw it to any of you other guys, any kind of experiences with Dylan that you might want to share?
He was pretty. I didn't talk with him a whole lot. I might have one of the least amount of experience, or at least relationship with the guy of anybody here. But whenever I was first kind of joining Killer Flicks and kind of just starting out in YouTube, I want to say I was maybe like 500-600 subscribers or something like that. Maybe when I kind of came into Killer Flicks, and he was always pretty encouraging early on. Like I'd hit 1,000, and he'd message me and be like, "Hey, proud of you. You're doing good with your channel." And he was pretty good about that for a while. And then unfortunately, he kind of dropped off for like the last year or so for the most part. But that's the main thing that I kind of remember about Dylan, was always being really encouraging for me whenever I first kind of was the new guy on the block.
That was one thing about Dylan that I noticed with YouTube creators, that he was always like so helpful and giving. Like there were quite a few creators that he introduced through Killer Flicks. Like I remember he brought over Jason Smith from Sinister Cinema Reviews, and he was a big fan of his work. And he even like created this post to where, hey, if I want to support young creators, and all of a sudden we just had all these creators. And if you look now at Killer Flicks, there are, I would say hundreds of YouTube creators are on Killer Flicks, and I think Dylan started all that. He's the one that kind of encouraged all of us mods to, hey, let's help each other out. If somebody's trying to start a channel, let's do what we can to give them that push. And didn't he kind of do that for you too, Zach, with your channel?
Yeah. Like, when I was, like, really down and out with my channel, he was like, you got a great thing going here. You need to keep going. I'll get as many people as I can to watch these videos because I really don't want you to give up. He also helped me with my writing as well, and people that are close to me know that I want to be a screenwriter. And when I was having some really terrible lows with my writing, I'd say, you know what, let me just send some pages to Dylan and see what he thinks. And he would always bring me back like glowing responses, even if it's negative. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just really caring about everything. If you were friends with Dylan, he cared about everything in your life.
Yeah, he was probably one of the most caring people I'd ever met at the time, and it was just kind of shocking to me when we would have these conversations, and he would say, "Hey, let's do this again next week. Let's do a video chat together." And we would do that for the longest time. We did that, and like Cody was saying, I think Dylan had some, and plus I think, how long are you going to stay around, say a horror group or even like a YouTube channel? There's, people have lives, and that's kind of what I thought. Dylan, he's not in Killer Flicks as much now, so I kind of assumed that he had other things going on. So this is really sad. But when he passed away, immediately all those feelings just came rushing back to me, like almost unexpectedly. Like, wow, I haven't really talked to Dylan in so long, but then all of a sudden this happens, and it's just like he's right there again. All these memories that we had together. I would say all of 2016, me and Dylan were just like, very, very close friends. And so it was tough, and I'm sure you guys can relate to having friends or having family members that die abruptly, just completely unexpectedly. It wasn't, just unexpectedly. Anybody want to share any kind of experiences like that and how we, I guess, deal with grief when something like that happens?
Don't all speak of it once.
Well,
no, just anybody.
To go back to what you were talking about previously, 99% of people give me a hard time about using the C word, and Dylan fell in that 1%. And if anybody used the C word more than I did, it was certainly Dylan, and made me certainly feel at home, and made me blush a couple times with the amount he used the word. So
he was the one guy that said it lovingly.
Right. Right.
I didn't take offense to it at all, because it was just, that was like in his vocabulary, and he used it in the best way, as weird as that sounds. Like, Dylan had all these quirks about him, that were just, he was different. He was different and I think that's one reason why I gravitated towards him so much, is because I did 24 years in the military, and I know a certain type of person from being in the military, but I always gravitated towards those outsiders, those people that feel kind of alone, and they feel like they don't fit in with everybody else. I've always been that person, and it's strange that I was in the military for 24 years, and I had to kind of just mold myself into almost like a different person. And then I meet Dylan, and Dylan's just this like free spirit. It really was, and I'd never met anybody like Dylan in my whole life. And it was just liberating. I was like, wow, this is a kid. He doesn't give a crap what anybody thinks. He's going to do what he wants to do. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to him. He took responsibility for who he was. And, I think Dylan brought a lot of those types of people into Killer Flicks. And I think that's why Killer Flicks is such a big family now, because we are just a group of misfits, and so I think Dylan's a big part of that. Robin Clancy says the C word is the Clancy family's favorite word in a friendly way. I completely believe you, Robin.
I didn't know Dylan all that well, but what I did know about him, he just came across to me as someone who would speak his mind no matter what, and I think that kind of person can rub people the wrong way, but ultimately it's just it was honest, and
very honest.
That could go either way with some people, but that's all I can say really is my overriding impression of who he was, because like I say, I didn't know him on any great personal level, but from what I saw with his conversations with other people in the chat and his responses now and again to some of the things I'd put on there, is that he just let it out. So.
Yeah, and I could always argue that words certainly look a certain way, but it's the intention that should be judged, and he certainly was a kind-hearted person. So
yeah, you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth, CB, because I was going to say he was one of these people that was so brutally honest, but yet he had this really gentle nature about him. Right. And so I guess he was brutally honest in a way that you really wouldn't take offense to it, and he was just so encouraging. That's the one thing about me is, like, I know for a fact, and I won't say any names, but I know for a fact Dylan knew channels that had like 500,000 subscribers or more on YouTube. And when I first met him, I was like Cody. I probably had maybe 1,000 subscribers at the time or something like that. And he would talk to me. He'd be like, "Wow, your content is so amazing. You do such a great job." I reviewed Kill Bill for him, I remember, and I was just like, "What? This guy knows these channels that are massive. He writes for channels that are massive. Why does he care about what I do?" And I put out this review for Kill Bill, and he was just over the moon about it. And it wasn't like my performance. It's not me. It was just my friendship, And I think that's what Dylan, he valued friendship so much, so near and dear. I could have propped a camera in front of me and talked for 10 minutes and paused every 2 minutes, and it wouldn't have mattered. That's just the type of person Dylan was. He valued friendship that much. So, and that's part of he touched a lot of lives, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this. And if I could read, and I know I'm kind of overtaking everything here, but if I could read from the chat, Lori Hackney says, "Lost my dad on December 14th, 2013. Then my mom in November 2016. The most comforting thing for me was listening to their favorite music. Hated it all my life. Now love it." That's beautiful, Lori. That's the power of music. I've always been a big music lover, and so I can completely relate to that. Music has gotten me through a lot of moments. I know, Zach, you're a big music fan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to music, when something like that happens, when someone close to you goes away like that, I always listen to Typo Negative. That's just me. That one of the best albums from them, for me, is October Rust. And the way that Peter Steele would write lyrics about death and stuff like that, it just doesn't make you feel sad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Peter Steele had one of the most unique voices. You could tell if there was a lot behind that voice, and I don't think there's any other voice like Peter Steele, to be honest. There's that one guy that's like, "Once there was this boy," but it's like he was trying. Whereas Peter Steele's voice was natural, like that.
They rarely ever did any kind of vocal effect on him. His voice really was that deep.
I know. Insane. For me, like, since we're talking about music, I'm a massive Tool fan, and one of the big reasons why I'm such a Tool fan is because Maynard...
You're a massive Tool fan? Did you say you're a massive Tool fan?
Okay. Maynard James Keenan's voice, I think, is like
Halloween.
An angel. So...
I see. Tool the
what
band.
did you
I thought
think
massive Tool.
Oh, I'm a massive Tool. Okay. I get it. Cody, you play the guitar, don't you?
I do. I'm rusty as hell because I haven't even had the time or the energy to do it in quite a while. But I actually Holly got me a Paul Reed Smith guitar for early Father's Day present, so that's kind of booted me in the ass to get back into it. So I bought some guitar tablature books, and I'm gonna fix the intonation on it and hopefully get back into that very soon. But yeah, I've been playing off and on since I was 14.
Oh, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Now, if I could segue, because I don't want to get everybody, crying here, but if I could segue over to, let's talk about some of Dylan's favorite directors and movies. And let's start with Tarantino. I think that's a good place to start because there was a new trailer that actually just came out for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I guess we can start with that. I'll go to Bryan first on this. Have you seen the trailer for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I've not seen the new one. I saw the one that was released about a month ago. And I know a lot of people weren't quite sold on that trailer, but I liked that one, to be honest. I hear the new one is supposed to be a lot more engaging, but it's Tarantino. Quite frankly, his worst film is still better than the majority of directors' best films. So, I'm there. Sign me up. I know in recent years, I think a lot of people think he's become a bit too self-indulgent, but I actually think he's produced some of his best work in more recent years. Like Django Unchained is probably my favourite film of his, and Inglourious Bastards as well. That one's so good. Solid stuff. So, I'm always willing to go and watch a film if he's directed it. So, sign me up.
I know CP's a massive Tarantino fan. Don't you even have like a Tarantino playlist?
Do I? No. Probably not. No, but I love Tarantino. Sure.
What are you thinking about this new movie?
So I'm skeptical, and not for any reason other than to be a snob. He gave a no spoiler warning at Cannes, and the second trailer they show clips of Sharon Tate, who's played by Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he's going to do an Inglourious Bastards and alter history. So I'm a little.
I would say probably yes.
What would you spoil in a? Yeah. So
he takes a lot of liberties. I mean,
right.
With Inglourious Bastards, completely rewrote World War II. So this trailer was interesting to me because you forget that it's a movie about Manson because it focuses on this actor and this stuntman Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, and it looks like a comedy, like a Tarantino style comedy, and then all of a sudden, here's Charles Manson and Sharon Tate.
Based on the trailer and all the footage we've seen, do you think it's about Manson, or I think he's just a tertiary character?
I think you're probably right, but I think he's going to weight the second half of the story down pretty heavily. That's just what I'm thinking. But I mean, for me, if it's a Tarantino movie, I don't even need to see a trailer. I'm there day one. He's one of those few directors. I can't even say that about John Carpenter. I would have to see a trailer because today's John Carpenter is not 70s John Carpenter, but Tarantino still is like, swinging for the fences every time. So, Zach, have you seen the new trailer?
I've seen both trailers. A couple of things, like this will be the first Tarantino movie that I've ever seen in theaters.
No kidding.
I never got to see Django Unchained, but I love it. It's one of my favorites after it came out, and I didn't get to see Inglourious Bastards either. And I had to give that one a second watch because the first time I watched it, I kind of lost interest. The second time, I got really, really into it. By the 30th time, it was one of my favorites. But I kind of got, when the first time I saw the second trailer, I kind of got a Hail Caesar vibe.
Yeah.
The Coen Brothers film that came out a couple years ago. Obviously without the singing numbers. But I thought it looks really cool. The second trailer looks really awesome, and I think he's going to pull in some of that not connected but connected things that he's done in some of his movies before, like Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for it. I think it looks really cool.
Chat.
Go ahead, Bryan.
We got a super chat.
Oh, Santino, what's up, man? Always nice to see. Santino's a good friend. $20. Thank you. He says, Dylan, the only other person I've met that was just as big a fan as Argento as me and Giallo in general. I will be revisiting Tenebrae with him on my mind. Yeah, man, every time I watch Tenebrae, I'm going to be thinking of Dylan. And by the way, any super chats that go in this stream are going to go directly to Robin Clancy and her family. We posted a link to their GoFundMe for his funeral expenses, and we've reached that goal. And now anything that I get from this, I want it, because I want them to have as much as they can, because I know their family's going through a rough time right now. So yeah.
If you guys, if you only want to donate for that reason, though, I would just go to the GoFundMe, because YouTube does take a chunk out of a super chat. So if you're super chatting to have both to talk with us and the added benefit, then that's cool. But if you just want to donate, just go direct.
Yeah.
CP just posted the link to the GoFundMe. If you guys check that out, I would donate all of your money, or most of your money, will go directly to them if you go to that link. If you do it here, YouTube's going to get, I think, 40% of it. So I would say, yeah, go that route. And if you want to give to me, please give to them. That's all I ask. Just go to that GoFundMe. This is for Dylan. I am not doing this for money.
We're not?
No. Not this time.
Just kidding.
I think Mother Mayhem's giving me shit. She does that from time to time.
Oh.
She says something. I have never watched the movie twice and had a different opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's talking about. If you know what, we'll get to Argento, and I'll tell you my little story about Dylan and Argento. And hello, Drewski McGillicuddy is in the house. Drewski was a big friend.
Here to yell at us about Monster Squad.
Yeah, he'll probably mention Monster Squad, but I know he was a big fan. Drewski, if you want to type up something your experience with Dylan in there, I will be happy to read that because I know you and him were really close too. So, and thank you for stopping by. He said, y'all invited Zach and not me? What a bunch of malarkey. That's messed up. Oh, Cody, I need to get Cody's opinion on that new trailer before I jump over to Kill Bill.
I don't have one because I haven't watched it.
You haven't watched either trailer?
I watched the first one, the teaser that they kind of put out. That was enough for me. Kind of going along with what you guys have said. My money is pretty much already spent. I'm there. It doesn't matter. They could just say, "Hey, Tarantino's got a new movie. You want to check it out?" That could be the trailer.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first one gave me enough. Tarantino, I wasn't really. The Hateful Eight was the only one in recent memory where I was kind of like, okay. I loved Inglourious Bastards. I loved Django. That was my first Tarantino theater experience, and it was very interesting too because me and my younger brother were the only white guys in the whole theater. So for the 350 times that it says the N-word, I was like, "Oh, we're gonna die. We're gonna die. We're gonna die." But yeah, I mean, it looks interesting. They kind of sold it on the premise of Marilyn Manson, but it looks like CP said,
Charlie.
Correct. Charlie. Very different movie. But yeah, they kind of sold it when they first announced what it was going to be about, like it was going to be about the Manson murders, but I don't know. I feel like that's going to be something in the background at best. But yeah, I mean, Tarantino, Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, where do I sign up?
Margot Robbie, too.
Lindsay says Bryan is rocking that Walter White look, and I can actually make that reference now.
Yes.
Oh, does that mean she's seen freaking Nah, there's no way she's seen Breaking Bad.
Probably hates it.
Just
she probably hates it. She probably doesn't get it.
Lee.
Yeah.
Drewski in the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Drewski. My favorite memory of Dylan is all the times I blamed everything on him. Who am I going to blame everything on now? We were even going to get a T-shirt. If anybody would blame everything and not take responsibility, it's Drewski. And then he'd want you to review a movie that he wants you to see. Yeah. I blame Dylan Clancy. That would have been a good T-shirt. You could still get that made, you know. Now, we were talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I will say this, even after seeing the second trailer, it's still a very good trailer because it doesn't really give away too much. Like I mean, because Tarantino, it's probably gonna be like 2.5 hours, you know, like they always are. So, now if I could jump over to Kill Bill, and I already shared that story about Dylan asking me to review it, but Kill Bill, I loved that movie because it was Tarantino's first jump into like fully into action. There was like little bits of action in Pulp Fiction, but I mean, still to this day, I think some of the action scenes are, you know, some of the best of the genre, or at least most ambitious. I mean, I can imagine how tired Uma Thurman must have been during that fight with the Crazy 88.
Uma Thurman?
The Bride. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well.
Whoever's wearing that yellow jumpsuit.
Yeah. Bryan, what are your thoughts on Kill Bill?
I love it. Absolutely love it. I did do a fan edit though. I did my own edit of it because there are just a few moments in there that I don't quite like, and because we got it in the 2 parts, which really annoyed me as well because it should have been released as one long film, and I did my own edit, but I love it. I think I prefer Volume 1 more than Volume 2, but that's mainly because I love the Eastern flavour. I love samurai movies and things like that. So, the whole vibe in that when she fights the Crazy 88, and then they have that fight with what's her face outside in the snow. It's just it's got that like Lady Snowblood feel about it. It's just love. Visually, it's stunning, and just the action's beautifully choreographed as well. So it is one of my favourites actually. If we'd have got it as one long film and there was just a few little edits here and there, it would be my favourite Tarantino film.
I kind of like that it's 2 films actually, just because they're so different. You know, I'm glad it wasn't the same movie twice, just continuing the story. It was a Western type feel and an Asian type feel. And it's hard for me to say which one I like better because I think my favorite character actually is Michael Madsen from the second one. I don't know, I just loved, you know, he's just like this down and out guy. He works at this strip club. He's got this boss that treats him like crap. But yet, outside of that, he was on the Deadly Viper Squad, and he's like this completely dangerous type of person. He's this killer. But yet he's got this boss that just... So I like little character moments like that. Whereas the first one's more like straight... It's just action, pretty much. There's some nice character moments in there. My name is Buck. But, other than that, it's mostly action, though. Zach, let's get your thoughts on... Which one do you prefer, first off, of the Kill Bills?
It's been so long since I've seen them. No, literally, I haven't watched them in probably 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember really liking the first one a lot. The fight scene between Uma Thurman and Vivica A. Fox is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I always thought that was really good. The choreography that went into that just blows my mind. And I always thought that Tarantino was really, really good at pulling stellar performances out of actors that you wouldn't think are capable of giving that type of performance.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like Michael Madsen. And he's one of my favorite characters as well from those movies. So, I love the scores of those. I like the Western feel score.
Yeah.
Western scores are some of the best scores of all time, in my opinion, and I think they nailed it in both those movies.
It's borrowed music, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's all music that's been sourced from other places. They use a lot of the Ennio Morricone stuff from the westerns in there. But it's a great soundtrack. Both.
Well, yeah, it's not like he had somebody. The score is borrowed. It's not like somebody wrote something for Kill Bill, right?
No, actually, he had. I think it was Wu-Tang Clan that wrote some original material for the first one, and then he had Robert Rodriguez actually write some original material for the second one. That's why the second one has a little bit of a Western type vibe to it. So just some parts of the score, but Tarantino always has these select songs from the '70s that he uses in his movies, but there is some original material in there.
Yeah,
I could have just made that up.
The big stuff that I remember is just stuff that's like, you know it from something else. two or three of the bigger songs.
When I went to Japan, because I was really into the Kill Bill soundtrack around that time, and one of the artists that's on the Volume 1 soundtrack is this Japanese woman called Kajimeko.
Yeah.
So when I went to Japan, I looked her up in the HMV in Tokyo, and apparently she was a pretty big deal back in the either 60s or 70s, and so I picked up a greatest hits of hers and brought it back with me. So I do own a Kajimeko greatest hits because of Kill Bill.
Yeah, that's what's cool about Tarantino. He brings out all this music, this forgotten music, and brings it in the public psyche again. Lindsay says part 2, hands down, when they sit at the table and just interact when she's with her daughter. So many feels in the end of that film. Yeah, that scene, I remember the first time I saw that movie, I just felt so much tension during that scene because I didn't know when the two, Bill's a very dangerous person, but he's so calm and collected. So when he strikes, it could be at any moment. So during that whole scene, they're just talking, and he's giving her this Superman analogy, and then all of a sudden he just, without missing a beat, just shoots her, with the dart. It's just a very effective scene, and I like how the second one isn't this completely action-packed. It has some action in it, but it's more character-based, which is one thing I love about it.
Great fight scene with Daryl Hannah.
Oh yeah,
takes the eye.
Yeah.
I going back to what Zach said before about how Tarantino is able to draw the best performances out from people. It's so true because Uma Thurman, while I like her as an actress, I wouldn't say she's blown me away in a lot of stuff. And I think her best work has definitely been the stuff she's done with Tarantino. And there's a scene in, I can't remember if it's Volume 1 or Volume 2, but because it might be done in flashback or whatever in Volume 2, but it's when she wakes. It's when she realizes that she had a daughter, or she's been taken from her, and it's just this scene where she's on the bed and she's processing it, and the performance that Uma Thurman gives in that scene is absolutely incredible. That was the
when she breaks down.
Yeah, where she really breaks down. It was like the first time where I kind of saw Uma Thurman as a potential kind of Oscar winner, but.
Well, I think Tarantino has a knack for pulling the best out of actors, and I think that's because they want, when somebody is in a Tarantino movie, they want to give it their all, they want to give it their best, and I think that's why we see such great performances in Tarantino movies.
Didn't Zach just say that?
He probably did.
Word for word, I think he said it.
I gotta read this comment. Actually, while I'm looking for the comment, Cody, give me your thoughts on the Kill Bills. Do you like them?
I actually just revisited them this year. I want to say it was in March. Previous to that, no, I didn't. Because whenever it came out, I was young. I didn't really, never really got into any kind of Japanese film or anime or anything like that, or any kung fu film. So it was very odd to watch. The movie starts off and you get the fight scene with Vivica A. Fox and you get the great Quentin Tarantino dialogue. And I'm like, this is cool. But as soon as it started going into anime and Japanese stuff, it kind of lost me when I was young. And I never bothered with the second one for that reason. But I rewatched them this year, being older, having seen quite a few foreign films and being a little bit more open to it, and especially being screamed at by all of you guys about what, you don't like Kill Bill? What's wrong with you? So I watched it, and I enjoyed both of them. They're not my favorite Quentin Tarantino movies. I definitely prefer the more crime-based ones, but I enjoyed them. It's hard to say which one I like better, because the first one where Bryan was saying edits, things he can do without, I have quite a few of those scenes in the first one, but that's where a lot of the best action is. And then you get to the second one, it's a lot more character-based. So they kind of balance themselves out. So I really don't know which one I prefer, but yeah, I'm glad I revisited them.
Now I was looking for this comment. Oh yeah, here it is. Lori Hackney, and it ties right in with you, Cody. She says, "Watched Cody's Dusk Till Dawn video yesterday, which was partly directed by Tarantino, and it got me in the mood to watch it. it on Netflix and already took it down, but they have the series, which sucks. Yeah, the series doesn't compare to the first movie. No. And I guess if we can transition into From Dusk Till Dawn a little bit, I know Bryan was like really praising you for your review, because I didn't get a chance to watch it yet. But what was it about From Dusk Till Dawn that really connected with you?
Me?
Yeah.
The main thing I always think about is just the memory of going to see it in theaters, because I was only 6 years old, and my dad was a single parent, so if he ever wanted to see a movie, you know, I kind of had to tag along, or he had to wait. And I remember I've yet to like go back and watch a trailer, but according to him, even to this day, it never really advertised it as like this really adult movie. It was just a vampire flick.
Yeah.
So we go to see it. And then, like, you know, within 40 minutes, you get that Cheech Marin scene, pussy, pussy, pussy. And, like, I remember, like, at least for a third of the movie, he's covering my eyes, like, as soon as boobs start flying. He's covering my ears. And I remember just being frustrated, like, I want to see, stop. And that, and we had the soundtrack, because the movie's got a great soundtrack, but it's one of those soundtracks where it splices in lines from the movie between every track. So all the dirtiest lines are in this soundtrack. So I always wanted to listen to it, like when we were doing yard work or if I was riding my bike and stuff. But we would never be able to, because 2 songs in, and then you get the Juliette Lewis scene and the hotel is playing, and so so that's what I always think about. So that's something that's kind of unique to me with the movie. But as far as what I like about the movie, it's just it's. There's nothing else like it, you know what I mean? There's nothing else that's like this really hardcore Quentin Tarantino style crime thriller that kind of switches immediately on a dime to this B-movie, you know, special effects orgy vampire film. And it's a strange movie to review, and it's a fun movie to review, because me and Bryan kind of align a lot with this, where the first half of the movie is like, that's it, you know what I mean? That's like one of the best things ever. And then you get to the second half, which is what makes the movie From Dusk Till Dawn what it is. You know, that's what makes it unique. But they're just such different tones and such different approaches that it's a very interesting movie to kind of analyze, because all the problems are mostly in the second half. But at the same time, without that second half, it's not From Dusk Till Dawn. You know, so it's.
The funny thing is, like, there are people that prefer the first half, and then there are people that prefer the second half. You know, I don't know. It's an interesting way to do, you know, a vampire flick, because the first half is like a Tarantino flick. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this looks like a fun little vampire flick. Let's throw this in." And then I was just so surprised that they didn't even get to the vampire stuff until like halfway. And I think when it really hit me was, first off, George Clooney is like, this is his best role.
Awesome.
I think he is so awesome in this movie. And by the time, you know, his brother, played by Tarantino, is such just a loose cannon. You know, he's completely messed in the head. And so there's that scene where he's just sitting there looking at Juliette Lewis, and he's just having these like imaginations of Juliette Lewis wanting him to lick her pussy. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, did he just say? And I was like, I love this movie. Because I just love characters like that, you know? That's just like character chocolate. I think I said cinematic Kool-Aid in one of my reviews. So I'm going to coin that term. I'm going to get a cinematic Kool-Aid t-shirt. Zach, give me your thoughts on From Dusk Till Dawn.
Real quick, though, Mother Mayhem does add, and I did forget this in my review, there's a funny little joke that I have in the inside where I had to kind of splice it in, where she says, I think about Salma Hayek and a major sexual awakening. Oh my God, yes.
Do we even have to... I'll give that to Zach. Zach, you get to talk about Salma Hayek.
Okay.
Okay.
Like Cody, I watched a lot of horror movies with my dad when I was a kid. So I saw From Dusk Till Dawn probably when I was 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I remember, like, when I was a kid, my mom said I was going to my dad's for the weekend. I was like, yes! I can't wait! Because we watched all the old Arnold movies, Bruce Willis, you know, all these old horror movies and stuff. But I really liked From Dusk Till Dawn because I just liked everything about it. I liked the look of it. I liked the vampires. I thought the snake-like vampires was something really, really interesting and cool, because I hadn't seen that before ever in a vampire movie. Because the only other vampire movie I'd probably seen at that point was Lost Boys.
Oh,
and that kind of molded my interpretation of what vampires should look like and be in a movie. Just really, really badass. And it helped me have a better outlook on George Clooney, because the only thing I had seen him in prior to that was Batman and Robin. So,
oh wow,
that's where Clooney can act.
That's like the opposite end of the spectrum.
But I was a young dumb kid and loved Batman and Robin because it had Arnold Schwarzenegger in it.
Yeah, you know what? I actually liked it when I saw it in the theater. I think I was 57 at the time when I saw it, but
go ahead and get that joke out.
I know Lindsay would probably say that. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I remember it when it came out. It's funny how we go through these cultural shifts, because when Batman and Robin came out, people were having a good time with it. It wasn't until
12 hours later you watched it again.
Yeah, exactly. Leave me out of this.
That wasn't as good as I remember.
And then later, all of a sudden, like when the internet really started coming into its own, people were like, "That's the worst movie of all time." They were right, but we didn't realize it at the time.
It's funny because I realized it before the internet was even a thing. Because I grew up. When did it come out? 96.
98.
98. Okay, yeah. So I was 8 years old, and yeah, that was 97. Okay, whatever. I was 6, 7, or 8. I was young, but I loved Batman and Robin when I was a kid. Like I had a Batman and Robin like shirt. I had the toys. Like I was the demographic that they were going for with that cheesy ass movie. And it was actually probably my favorite Batman movie as a kid. As strange as that is, but I want to say I was like maybe 11, maybe not even. Maybe I was 10. And I remember I popped it in randomly back in the VHS days. Batman and Robin. And I popped it in, and about halfway through, I was like, I don't remember this movie sucking. The whole time I was like, oh my god, he's got a credit card with a bat symbol. This is weird. So yeah.
Well, I mean, if you keep in mind,
I gotta make a confession.
Go ahead.
Obviously I'm a huge Batman fan. I was in such denial with Batman and Robin.
With Justice League?
No.
5 stars.
I saw Batman and Robin at the cinema 3 times.
Wow.
Because I think I was just
in love with Mr. Freeze?
I was just in denial, man. I was telling myself it was enjoyable. I was telling myself it was a good ride. And then I came out on that 3rd time, and I'm like, oh,
Bryan loves my movie.
yeah.
Okay, just to jump back, because I could freaking talk about Batman all day, but just to touch on some of the other things that Dylan liked, and I know we all haven't seen a lot of these properties. Now, I will say this: Dylan was the biggest Game of Thrones fan I've ever met. I know I'm not going to talk about spoilers for the last season, so I'm just going to kind of gloss over Game of Thrones, just to mention that Game of Thrones was like everything to Dylan. And I will say, for those that are wondering, he saw the first 4 episodes of this 6-episode season. So that was just another heartbreaking thing to me. It's like, this guy loved Game of Thrones more than anybody. He didn't get to see the last 2 episodes. And I will say he loved every episode that he had seen so far, because he used to DM me. And I actually DM'd him. I was like, Dylan, what'd you think about the last episode? Because the internet was going crazy. Everybody was like, this sucks. And so I was like, I wonder what Dylan thinks, the Game of Thrones like fanatic. And he was like, I loved it. It was amazing. I won't give any spoilers. But yeah, Dylan was all about Game of Thrones, and I have a feeling he probably would have loved it till the end, And maybe he saw what others couldn't see with the series, but I mean, he just knew everything about. I mean, Zach, did you and Dylan ever talk about Game of Thrones?
Honestly, no, we really didn't talk about Game of Thrones.
No kidding.
It was The Walking Dead that we.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Next.
Okay. Point taken. Yeah, I had to get that out there though for Dylan. I will ask this though, Bryan, because I don't think you ever mentioned it. Have you ever watched any Game of Thrones?
I watched the first episode. I I really like the look of it. It does look like something that I would be highly interested in, but I was put off on the first episode because I just felt like the sex stuff was a bit too much.
Doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
Well, it actually does taper down quite a bit on those last couple seasons.
It's just like any other big show. They bring in all the sex stuff in the first few seasons, and then it all goes away near the end.
Yeah, it tapers down quite a bit.
Every big show has done that. Every big show.
Yeah, incest.
It's just
always in television shows.
They keep the incest in there. It still plays a big part.
I just find it unnecessary because like a show like that with the period setting and the huge battle scenes and the mystical element, that's enough to draw me in. It's got like a Lord of the Rings vibe to it, but for adults. That's enough for me to draw me in. I don't need to see all of that stuff on there, but whatever. To each his own. I will get around to watching it at some point because I do actually have season 1 to 3 on a DVD box set. So yeah, I mean, I would like to watch it, but I will admit it is that stuff that kind of put me off for the longest time.
Now, Cameron Scott said the sex stuff was unpalatable for him. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say sex stuff was unpalatable. Good word usage. Let's bounce. Actually, I wanted to ask Zach, since you said he talked about Walking Dead. Now, what was Dylan's thoughts on the latest, seasons of Walking Dead? Was he still like a big fanboy about it all?
Yes, because he was very upset about certain characters leaving the show. It's just like, no, why are you taking these characters away from me or putting them on another show that people don't watch, aka the Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah,
I was never really into that show either, but I remember him being very, very upset about Tom Paine, but the guy that plays Jesus on the show. But he was like, I would rewrite this entire season if they would let me, because they made so many stupid decisions over the past 3 or 4 seasons. Being real, Walking Dead hasn't been very great in a long time.
I kind of jumped ship a couple seasons ago, just because to me it got really repetitive. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Say what you want about even the bad of Game of Thrones, it's never really repetitive. At least I don't remember it being repetitive. Whereas Walking Dead, though, it's just like every season there's this like, okay, we got to come together. We're trying to avoid this danger that's constantly in the way, and then there's this big rise up at the end, and then there's this big battle, and then it's just like rinse and repeat constantly over and over. Now, I did hear that this last season it got better, but I'm at the point where I don't care anymore. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Walking Dead was really good for like season 1. I'm a huge fan of season 2, season 3, season 4. 5 is okay, and 6 is good. 7, But here's the thing about season 9. People say they love season 9. I watched the first episode of Game of Thrones season 8, and this is better than every single episode of season 9 of Walking Dead.
Yeah.
That just shows you the quality of the show.
Thank you, South Screen. Appreciate that. Now let's jump over to Argento, and I have to talk about Argento just for Dylan, because Dylan was the biggest Argento fan and really Giallo fan that I had ever met, and he was the one that turned me on. But before I met Dylan, I had never watched a single Giallo film. I had never seen Suspiria, and it was just a genre that I wasn't even interested in, to be honest. I knew that Suspiria was considered a big, classic, but like I said, it's just something I never was interested in.
Super chat.
Super chat. TJ Bowser, thank you very much. And I'll just go ahead and repeat this about Super Chat.
Hi, South Screen.
Oh, I said hi to South Screen.
No, he said hi, Cody. I didn't. I just said
hi. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, TJ. And I will say, we'll donate to the GoFundMe. CP just posted the link there. If you guys want to donate and give it, most of it, all of it, to Dylan's family, do it at the GoFundMe if you can. I appreciate that. Lindsay says CP can suck a dick. Is that what that says?
Yeah, she's a jerk.
What would Dylan say?
Cunt? Do you mean cunt?
Yeah, that's what Dylan would say. Lovingly, by the way. So anyway, yeah, I was talking about Argento. So me and Dylan, we got into these big conversations, and I asked him what his favorite movie was. Point blank, what's your favorite movie? Tenebrae. I was like, Tenebrae? Why have I never even heard of this movie? And he's like, you have to watch it. You'll be amazed by this movie. And I know some of you guys have seen Tenebrae. I think Cody saw Tenebrae. That's the thing about Argento. Not for everybody. It is a very polarizing subgenre of horror. Some people will love it. Some people will hate it. But I bought Tenebrae. I threw it in. I'm a big fan of music in movies. I know that some people are more plot driven, and I can't fault them for that. I'm already digging myself a hole. But yeah, for me, movies are an experience for me, and I guess Mandy's a good example. I love Mandy, even though I know the story's freaking bonkers, and it takes a back seat to the visual style. For me, that's kind of what... Even though Tenebrae did have a pretty straightforward story, it was a slasher movie, but to me, it was an experience because of the music. It was just... I just loved the music in that movie. I love the way it's directed. And it was my first entry into Giallo, and I loved it. So, Zach, have you watched any Argento?
I tried to watch opera. I got about 25 minutes in, and I actually had my daughter that weekend, so I had to go to bed.
Yeah.
So, but I really wanted to try, and I actually did have a story from Dylan. We were actually talking about a script that we were going to write together. Unfortunately, we can't do that.
Yeah.
But we were talking about writing a script, and I had said this was about the time where the new Suspiria was put out on Blu-ray. It just had came out, and I said I hadn't seen it yet, and I didn't want to spend I think it was like $35 for the Vinegar Syndrome release.
Yeah.
I think. And he's like, "Don't worry, I just won this thing for Suspiria. I'll send it your way." Fortunately, I didn't get it, but that just shows how much he cared about wanting me to see one of his favorite movies.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. That Dylan would give you the shirt off his back, but he would definitely, if you hadn't seen a movie, he would send it to you in a heartbeat. He was just that type of person, and he begged me. It took me a while to finally watch Tenebrae, and he pretty much begged me. It was like, please, please, please. I was like, all right, fine, Dylan, I'll watch this freaking movie. And after I watched Tenebrae, then I jumped over to Suspiria. And that movie knocked my freaking socks off. Now, Bryan, have you finished Suspiria yet?
No, man alive. So I've my introduction to Argento was when I was about 13 years old. My dad rented a film called Trauma. We put that on, and we got about 15 minutes in, and we were all just like, no,
can't do it.
And we never let my dad live that choice down in the video store. But yeah, then just over a year ago, I watched Phenomena, which
one of the worst Argento film.
I disagree, good sir.
Oh man. Just like the most inappropriate musical score I've ever heard in my life.
I disagree, good sir.
Oh, that music does not go with that film.
That's what I love about it.
Welcome to Giallo film.
There's a couple different versions of that movie too, so it depends on what version you watched.
Is there a good one?
It might explain the score didn't match the version that Bryan was watching.
Hey, Donald Pleasance and Jennifer Connelly.
The score was the Goblin score, which it was just horrendous to my ears. It really was. And I think they did the one to Suspiria as well.
Yeah, they did. I'm a Goblin fanatic,
which explains why I found it so horrendous. I tried to watch Suspiria last week. I did an hour. I got an hour in, and then I was just... No.
Are you sure you weren't watching Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo? And you got it mixed up?
It's just look, I'll say one thing about Argento. He can capture a good visual, but he doesn't. doesn't quite know how to tell a story. In my mind, personally, just
you do make a good point. I think you have to be the type of person that can give story like a backseat. I guess like Rob Zombie movies. And if I can mention Dylan, I think Dylan loved polarizing films. That's kind of what I noticed about him. He really gravitated towards movies where you kind of had to form your own conclusions about what was going on. I think he was kind of like me. He was this type of guy that just loved an experience, And I do love fun action movies. I love superhero movies, and just straight up slashers. But every now and then I do like a different style story that's not necessarily up front and in your face, but you kind of have to dig deep and even do some research, and that's what I loved about, I think, Argento. Now I will say I don't love all Giallo movies. There's one movie I've tried to get through and I can't do it, and that's Deep Red. For some reason I'm having a tough time getting through that one, but everything else I've watched so far I've enjoyed. South Screen, just if I can transition real quick right here, he's asking if we're going to watch Brightburn. I'm going to go take my dog out, but I'm going to give this one to CP. What? CP, yes. Man up, motherfucker. Okay, give me your opinion on Brightburn. Does it look like it's too much like Superman?
No.
Go. And pass the ball around. I'll be right back.
Yeah, okay. Too much like Superman? No, it's...
that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, if anything, it's what if somebody had all these powers and was a bit irresponsible with them? I think it's for me, as somebody who's tired of superhero movies, it's a welcome departure.
I'm seeing it tomorrow night. I have yet to watch any trailer whatsoever.
Oh.
All I know is the concept. That's all I need. So I'm very excited.
I love that they used the same font in the trailer that they did for the Man of Steel trailer.
I haven't seen any trailers for it either, and I have a friend at work that always tries to tell me about it, and I was like, nope, don't want to know, want to know.
That's my coworkers in Game of Thrones every fucking day.
There goes any shot of watching Game of Thrones again.
Yep, exactly. Let's see, what can we talk about? So Giallo. I don't even know if he was going to ask me about it. I've had kind of the same, not quite as extreme bad as Bryan has had, but I definitely lean towards Bryan's take on Giallo so far. I started with Suspiria, which was kind of the
you're in the shot.
Yeah. Whoa! I saw feet. I started with Suspiria, which seemed to be the safest bet for if you're going to like any of them, you'll like this one. I liked it okay. It was very, very overhyped for me because Lee had reviewed it, and as we know, sometimes Killer Flicks gets obsessed with things when Lee discovers it. So it was like Killer Flicks' movie of the year at that point. So I was like, I gotta watch this fucking thing. And I watched it, and I was like, all right. I went from Suspiria to Tenebrae because that was the other one that was getting a lot of praise, especially from Lee. And Tenebrae was a chore to get through for me. I really did not enjoy it at all. And then I went from that. And I said, okay, maybe I'm just not an Argento guy. Let me try something else. And I tried a movie called The Beyond, which sounded really cool, which is a Giallo film. And I fell asleep 3 times trying to watch it. So I've watched the first half of it 3 times, and I just can't get through it. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll give it another shot, but as of right now, I think that the case is Giallo films might not be for me.
I haven't seen The Beyond yet, actually.
Neither have I.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, now we're going to, before we jump into news, we're going to talk about one thing that everybody's been waiting to talk about, Mr. Rob Zombie. Because no Dylan stream would be complete without touching a little bit, that didn't sound right, on Rob Zombie.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I'll start this one out with Zach. Are you a Rob Zombie fan, Zach?
Absolutely. I like the only Rob Zombie movie that I haven't seen is 31, and that's just because I don't want to spend the price for it.
Yeah.
I think that Rob Zombie has potential to be a fantastic filmmaker. I think he has a great eye for setting up shots. I think he casts pretty well as well. I just like to use
Cody's face.
I like that he uses character actors that you wouldn't expect to be in a film or to be in a horror film.
He borrows the Tarantino template.
If you've seen one of his films, you can expect it because it's the same cast over and over again.
It's the first time I ever saw Jeff Daniel Phillips in a movie. And I think he's a great character.
I love Jeff Daniel Phillips.
Here we go.
I love him in Lords of Salem. I think he's great in that movie for the small part he has in it.
Yeah.
And of course, we know when we talk about casting with Rob Zombie, Sherry Moon Zombie always comes up. She is really good in Lords of Salem. I really liked her in that movie. Anything else?
Is she though?
I like because the movie it isn't quite as centered on her. It's more of an over-enveloping story.
Yeah.
The only other movie that she's like really good in for me is The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah,
I think that I would say that her best performance is in The Lords of Salem, but I'm not saying that's a good thing. So we'll leave it at that.
Well, since we're talking about Lords of Salem, I tried before I met Dylan. I tried to watch Lords of Salem, and I got about halfway through, and I was like, I can't do this. And so Dylan kind of, because I knew Dylan loved the movie immensely, loved it so much that he was. I don't want to say he was like close friends with Sherry Moon Zombie, but he had a relationship with Sherry Moon, and I think Rob Zombie. And she even like sent him the sweater that she wore in that movie, and he wore it all the time when we would do our chats. Most of the time he'd be wearing that sweater. He just cherished it so much. So just recently I decided, after Dylan passed, I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch this movie again, and I'm going to give it a shot. And I watched Lords of Salem, and I did have an appreciation for it. I think that it's Rob Zombie's best directed movie. I think he was his most ambitious with that movie. I think it's a beautiful movie to look at, and I think if he got somebody else to flesh out, because he even wrote the script for it, but I think if he maybe gave his script to somebody else and said, hey, can you fine-tune this, make some sense out of it, then it could have been...
Common theme.
Exactly. It could have been great.
Where motherfucker is.
Because I love good witch movies based on witchcraft. I do tend to like those types of movies, like The Witch. So I'm glad I made it through the whole movie, because I definitely see what Dylan loved about it. It wasn't my thing, but as far as like Sherry Moon Zombie 2, I will agree with Cody. This is probably her best performance. But I think she has her limitations. I think once she gets to a certain level where she has to like really emote and bring out the tears, she has to kind of play the fence a little bit. So, but still, I think she was fine for the role. I think she was really fine. She kept my interest in the whole thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's everything around her in the movie that makes it for me, because you have Bruce Davidson in it as well. That's a fantastic character actor.
Yeah.
Ken Foree is in it too. He's great in it for the scenes he's in. It's one of the most atmospheric Rob Zombie movies.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely with the score and the look of it. I love the look of it. I don't know what film that was shot on, but I'm pretty sure it was shot on film. I don't think that was digital.
Lindsay says, Timothy, you must be new around these parts.
She put hashtag fuck you Cody Leach, and he goes, are you serious? I was like, that's how she hugs me through
That's how she hugs me.
Bryan is dying to give an opinion on Rob Zombie right now.
Oh no!
I think he's dying to move on. Actually,
I think one time, because me and CP have a very special relationship, and one time, probably a couple times, somebody got offended because CP was giving me a hard time. And I had to like step in and say, no, that's how we talk to each other.
He's a little touched.
Yeah. He's okay. Back off. Yeah. Call off your dogs. Now, I've got to ask Bryan this, okay? I know you love talking about Rob Zombie. Constructive criticism-wise, what do you think Zombie does best? And give me an example of what he does best in a certain movie. Take your time.
Look, I think he's got a very good visual style, right? I've said this before. I can't fault his visuals. I think they're perfectly fine. I'd say they're actually very well composed. Like as much as I hate Halloween 2, I do like the brutality that he brings to the character of Michael Myers, as a character like that should be.
Yeah.
But he just needs to stop writing his own material. Just stop it.
I would agree with that, especially on like Rob Zombie's Halloween. When you're making a Halloween movie, it has to have a certain feel and aesthetic to it. Even though I know this was his version of the movie, but the characters in the first Halloween movie, they were a little bit too Rob Zombie for me, and they didn't feel like Haddonfield. But in the second movie, it was so far removed for me from the Halloween universe that I was able to separate it. Whereas the first one felt like it was trying to dip one foot into the Halloween universe and one foot into the Rob Zombie universe. The second one was this complete separate beast of a movie, really. And it was his vision. And once he did that, I was like, okay, I like this. I like what you're doing with this. This doesn't feel like a Halloween movie. It feels more like just this psychological thriller. What does a trauma victim go through after, what they went through with Michael Myers in the first movie? And I love how he explored Laurie Strode in the second movie. And, I don't know. It just is a distinct vision. Help me out here, Cody. Cody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's... Rob Zombie is one of the most frustrating directors for me, because I think as a director, he's got a lot of talent. Like I've said it before, he's got the potential for like one of those like best of all time horror films in him. I don't know if we're ever going to see it, but he's got the potential for it. But I agree 100% with what Bryan's saying. For us to even get close to that, he's got to stop writing his own films. Like, you come up with a story. Like, okay, a story by Rob Zombie, screenplay by somebody else. Because every single movie, there's a lot of story, script, and dialogue issues. And he's one of those directors, too, that feels like he learns a lesson from his previous film, but then screws up something else. Like, Lord of the Salem is a good example. That's a movie where I agree with a lot of what you said. Like, visually, the movie is really striking. It's a very eerie, creepy movie. It's got great atmosphere to it. Like, you're like, what the hell? This is not a Rob Zombie movie at all. But then you have some weak script in there, and then you have a third act that kind of loses its mind a bit. So it feels like every movie I'm like, oh, you're getting it. Oh, well, now you fucked that up. What the hell? So he's a guy that I'll always be interested in what he's doing, but very rarely do I enjoy it. Halloween 2 is my favorite of his, and that's an extremely unpopular opinion. But yeah, I'm with you with that. The first Halloween is... It's a mishmash of a lot of different ideas. There's like a studio idea in there for a Halloween remake. There's a Rob Zombie idea for a movie in there. It's like some weird meeting in the middle. But Halloween 2, like you said, it's its own separate thing. And for me, even though I'm in the minority, it works 1,000 times better.
Well, I think also, if you look at a lot of behind-the-scenes material on his movies, he starts off, just full of hope and excitement. That this is going to be a great project, and it's like by the time he gets to the end of the movie, he's so fucking stressed out, and it seems like he hates the experience by the time he gets to the end of the filmmaking process. It kind of comes on screen. It's kind of like looking at like an acrylic painting, and it starts off nice and neat. And you got this. It's like a story. You got this over here and this over here, and then all of a sudden by the end of it, he gets frustrated and he just starts throwing paint around. And that's kind of what he does in some of his movies. I still love A House of a Thousand Corpses. I still love Devil's Rejects, even though that was a tough sell for the first watch. It was a lot to take in. And if I could share a quote from Rob Zombie, there was a scene that he was shooting with Bill Moseley in the hotel room with this actress. And it's the scene where Bill Moseley had to put his hand down the front of her panties. And it was just a very uncomfortable scene. And during shooting the scene, Bill Moseley said to Rob Zombie, I don't feel comfortable with this. I'm not having a good time doing this scene right here. I'm having a tough time getting there. And Rob Zombie looked at him, he said, art should never be safe. Think of it that way. You have to be willing to cross that line for the sake of art sometimes. And so when he did that, that's when Bill Moseley was able to turn it on and step outside of himself, for the sake of art. So
it's a great excuse to do whatever the hell you want.
Well, I kind of liken it to like The Last House on the Left, the original Last House on the Left, and how Wes Craven had this. This is a guy from a Baptist background, very religious background, and he, for his first film, he wanted to do something that was the opposite of that. He wanted to, I guess, test himself to see how far he could go. And just bury himself in the project and not really care about the outside world and how it was going to affect the outside world. So he just wanted to finish his film, but after he got done with the movie, I don't think Wes Craven ever even watched the original Last House after he finished the movie. But the backlash was just so bad because Craven didn't even realize how far he had went. And when he stepped back from it, he was like, oh my God, I can't believe I actually went that far. I actually did that. But then Wes Craven said, sometimes you have to be willing to show not the entertaining side of art, but the dangerous side of art. It should all be explored. So I kind of get where he's coming from.
That's fine if you've got something to say.
Yeah.
If you've got something to say beyond, this is a bunch of people doing nasty things for no other reason than being nasty. I get the sense with, as much as people don't like his version of Halloween, that first one, I at least get the sense that he's trying to give a reason for this evil. He's trying to show how this evil is created. So I can appreciate that, even though I don't like his approach.
Yeah.
Whereas The Devil's Rejects is a film I just wanted to walk out of, and the only reason I stayed is because the friend that I was with was really enjoying the soundtrack and wanted to carry on watching it. And I was just like, if he wasn't making me stay right now, I'd be out of here, because I didn't see the value in that film, to be honest. And that's just me personally. It just had nothing to say to me.
I'll give you an example. But first, I'm going to throw it to Zach, because I know Zach is probably the biggest Wes Craven fan that we got here. So, what are your thoughts about what Craven did with Last House on the Left? And did you think it was necessary?
Oh, absolutely. I think it was absolutely necessary, because people need to see the darker side of life sometimes. And if he didn't take the advice of Sean Cunningham from Friday the 13th, and switch the reels, we probably wouldn't have this iconic horror movie.
Yeah.
And they made that on a really low budget as well. And I pretty much agree with everything that you said, Lee.
Well, they pretty much shot that movie in Sean Cunningham's backyard, too, actually. Yeah. But, it kind of fits. I mean, it's horror. And it kind of fits into what horror is all about. Horror is about stepping into the unsafe. And, I guess having your audience able to watch something that they know they're safe, but it's a darker side of life that they would never step into, so it's kind of like an escape. Now, of course, there's different types of horror, but jumping back to what I was saying, I'll give you an example. Dead Men Walking, which is not really a horror movie, but it really shows a dark side of life. And Sean Penn played this character that brutally,
one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, he brutally raped this girl, and I think killed her boyfriend. It's been a while since I've seen it, but by the end of the movie, you actually kind of feel for Sean Penn's character, which I think is, amazing filmmaking. So yeah, I think that movie is a perfect example of going as far as you can, and then somehow in the end you kind of feel for the protagonist in a strange way because of the performances by Sean Penn and Susan Sarandon.
Go
ahead.
I was going to say about the original Last House on the Left, and it's all about female empowerment and everything. I think that really helped with Wes Craven's career for the rest of his movies. If you go back and look at his filmography, almost all of his movies, save for My Fault to Take, have female leads, and they're all very strong characters throughout all of them. Look at the Scream franchise.
Yeah.
So I think that he spent most of his career apologizing and saying, look, strong female characters.
Yeah, but I think, I've not seen all of Wes Craven's movies, but I think a lot of his work, the stuff I have seen, it has something to say, and that's the point I make about Devil's Rejects. Is for me personally, it's violence for violence sake. If you're going to say, you can say something through violence. That's that's great. But if you're not going to bother, if the violence itself is just all you're interested in, then I just don't see the point. Lee just brought up Dead Man Walking, and that's one of my top 5 films of all time, and it's just that is a film that takes a good look at violence and where it comes from and how someone ends up in that place where where they've done some of the most heinous acts you could think of, and yet come to a place of needing forgiveness and wanting forgiveness. And you know what I mean? There's a whole essay in there.
Yeah. It's an interesting discussion. If anything, I think and if I can address Drewski there, he's telling me about the DVD of Drewski. I have the DVD. I bought the 4-disc Arrow release. I've seen pretty much that is one of my favorite documentaries, actually, because Craven really breaks it down about his whole process of making Last House on the Left, where he was at the time, how he almost regretted making it after. People, film. They were theaters were burning the reels. But theaters were making their own edits of the movie. That's how controversial it was. Kind of like The Exorcist, which came out, I believe, a year later. And to me, all that interests me for some reason, and I think that's one of those things that draws me into horror. Is horror will go places that other genres will not go to, and not apologize for it. And I think that's one thing I kind of respect about horror. And if I could bring up this Cameron Scott, he brought up an interesting comment here. If I can scroll up here for a sec.
I'm in Washington.
Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, here it is. Okay. He says, I disagree. People can see the dark side of life from news, personal experiences, etc. They don't necessarily, they don't need that necessarily in film. No, they don't need it. But I think it's an interesting thing to explore in film. I don't think films should be sanitized for the sake of, censoring art. And that's just my opinion.
You could use metaphors, though.
I think it's the human condition. We're naturally drawn to darkness. It's just we don't seek the light. We actually seek the darkness. And yes. I think going to that place in a movie is much safer for us than going there in real life. And I think it allows us to process things that really we don't want to process if we had to do it in real life. So again, like I say, that's fine by me. Process it, but use it in a way that is constructive, that has something to offer, that has something to say, and that people can learn something from. But if you're just going to say, all right, I've got 2 hours to play with, and I'm going to show you torture porn, basically, then we don't learn it from that. And that to me, just what is that drawing? What is it asking of you as an audience member? Like, who are you being asked to identify with there? Like, I'd seriously consider when you're watching that, who am I identifying with? Why am I identifying with them? Do I agree with their outlook? I'm like Terrifier, right? I hated that film with a burning passion. I hated Terrifier. It's just like that film has no value whatsoever. Like, I challenge anyone to come at me with a point for that film's existence. Beyond literally seeing people being tortured. Like, what are you being asked there as an audience member? And this may sound weird coming from a guy who reviews a lot of horror movies. I like horror movies. Don't get me wrong. I like horror movies. But when they're at the best, when horror movies are at the best, they have something really profound to say about the human condition, our relationship to one another, to the spiritual realm, and this, that, and the other. It's just, but when it's just Terrifier, there's no value in that for me at all.
For me, the value was, and this might sound cryptic, I was entertained at the end. And that's really just as basic as I can get with it, as simple as I could get, because I knew that, again, I was safe. This was just, it was entertainment to watch Art the Clown be completely batshit crazy, just like any other horror icon. And I know I can use that term loosely, but at the end of the day, he's, a horror villain. And if your horror villain can't be let loose and do his thing, be it Michael Myers, be it Jason Voorhees, then what's the point? That's kind of what horror is.
This is where I've got to disagree with you, because the horror icons, the Freddys, the Michaels, the Jasons, they all have their hero, the opposite side of the coin, the one who fights. Ultimately, yeah, they're going to do their business, they're going to do their slasher business, but they're not going to win the day, because we have, we have our Nancy's, we have our, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. It's just like they're the character we root for, and we're always willing to see where these nut jobs are going to go, but that's on the condition that we have that central figure who we know is going to defeat that evil, or learn something through the process of battling that evil. We don't get that with Terrifier. We get a bunch of people, a string of people, constantly after one another, who are literally there as meat sacks to be torn to pieces, and none of them get to win the day. None of them get to be the hero. None of them get to challenge this notion of what Art the Clown brings to the situation. So literally, you are being asked as an audience member to look at the things that Art does and enjoy them, and then leave it at that. And to me, it's like, no, sorry, I'm not on board with that. I feel like my mind, I don't want my mind going there if there's no payoff for someone defeating an evil son of a bitch like that. It's just, that's me personally. I never understand that notion of, if his body's getting cut up for 2 hours, that's entertaining to me. It just, no, not for me.
Cody, are you in the middle of all this, or are you swinging towards Brian's way? Are you swinging towards my way? Let me know.
I'm pretty much right in the middle. I was fine with Terrifier. It was. Oh, shut the fuck up. It was. I didn't have the glowing praise for it, the instant horror icon, the savior of slasher that everybody else seemed to, for the most part. I didn't have the burning hatred that Bryan and Lindsay had for it. I watched it. I was like, okay, some interesting gore, goes a little bit too far, a creepy character that I don't understand the rules of Art the Clown as a supernatural, as a human. I have no fucking idea. But very much in the middle for it. Can I live the rest of my life very satisfying with not having a Terrifier 2? Yeah. But if a Terrifier 2 came out, would I watch it? Yes, I would.
CP?
No, I'm on Brian's side. I think, a couple reasons. As far as Terrifier is concerned, absolutely. It's an anti-horror movie. The whole thing about horror is isolation. And when he's doing things to totally depart from things that Brian's griping about, the pizza parlor scene, that it's just odd because, it's out in the open. Part of, the best slashers and the best horror is isolation. You know there's no one there to help. Here it's just kind of like, all right, you're out in public, you're messing with these girls, but, there's people that work at the, like, it's just, I don't know. For typical tropey reasons, it doesn't work for me, and on top of that, there's no real merit to it. It's just gore, and for that scene that people talk about, I think Bone Tomahawk did it better. There's a story pushed in front of that one too.
I think Bone Tomahawk's more A-level, whereas I think Terrifier's more of a love letter to grindhouse horror. Grindhouse is a specific subgenre that's not for everybody. I like some of it, but I definitely see what Terrifier was aiming at. As far as like what Bryan said about watching people get hacked up for 2 hours straight, no, I don't like that. I do like a story in there. I do like a little bit of ebb and flow, but I don't mind some blood and guts. You know, sometimes I'm in the mood for that with horror. I like all different types of horror. For me, I found Art the Clown pretty interesting. I found it pretty crazy how far this clown would go. It's kind of a juxtaposition because he seems like this, you know, before he does what he does, he seems like this almost comedic type of clown. You know, he does these little funny poses and whatnot. And then by the end of the movie, you're like, holy shit. So, Zach, I mean, what is your opinion on Terrifier? Did you like it?
I thought it was good. I mean, I didn't think it was terrible or anything, but I think it was like
pussy.
Like CP said, it's an anti-horror movie, but I think it's one of those. If anything, it's nihilistic, where the ending is you're all done. You have no chance to survive.
Yes,
but it's with me with Terrifier is they have to throw everything at the wall with the first movie. Because it's just the idea that they got from All Hallows Eve. He comes on and makes this movie. We want to impress investors and everyone so we can get sequels. I think it's one of those movies where you have to let it breathe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That maybe we will get that character that we follow, that we root for, like Bryan said. And even the Friday the 13th movies have those. We have the Tommy Jarvis trilogy where we follow the character through and we root against Jason Voorhees or root for him, whatever. I love Jason Voorhees, but I think Terrifier falls in that category where we need 2 or 3 more sequels to it to understand the character a little bit more.
Yeah, they don't really dive into the character that much at all in the first.
Yeah, like at the very end of the movie, you get to see that he may not be what we think he is. I think it has a lot of interesting ideas moving forward into a franchise, and I know that they want to make a Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see what they could do if they had more money in the project. Because the first Terrifier is a independent film. It was done on a small budget. They couldn't do exactly what they wanted to do. Are there things that I would change? Yes, I wouldn't make it as brutal as it was, but like I said, they have to throw everything at the wall. I support it. I think there should be a sequel. I think that horror needs another face to look at, and I think Art the Clown could be one of those next faces that we look at for the slashers.
Funny enough, when I did my first review for Terrifier, I was attacked left and right in that review because people thought, and I even said this in the review, I am not for censorship in horror in any way whatsoever. I think any filmmaker should be able to say what they want to say, however they want to say it. You know, it's freedom of speech. And then I followed that up with the scene in the middle where the girl gets cut in half. And I still believe this. I think it was a little bit, tasteless for me. I like the movie now after watching it the second time, but that is probably my least favorite part of the movie. I just didn't think it was neat. The movie was already graphic enough, and I didn't really I don't know, that just seemed just rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe it's because I have a daughter, I don't know, but the way she was killed, it rubbed me the wrong way. But because I said that in my first review, I mean, I was just attacked. People were saying that go back to you go back to your little safe Scream type movie, and Halloween. You don't deserve to watch movies like this. So the rabid fan base of that subgenre, they kind of take it a little bit too far when that's not what I was saying at all. I literally said in the review, hey, I'm not for censorship, but I don't have to like it. Which is kind of what Bryan's saying. You don't have to like it. So now, if I can transition here, because I know we've all had so much fun talking about Terrifier, but and I always wonder, because I don't know if Dylan liked Terrifier or not. So, Drewski, if you know if he liked Terrifier, let me know in the comments. But I want to move on to news now while I got a little bit of time.
Drewski wants to make sure that Bryan gets the message that he needs to see Irreversible.
Okay.
Irreversible.
I've heard of that movie. I haven't seen that one either.
I've seen the opening 5 minutes of Irreversible.
Yes. I FearNet played it. I saw it years ago when I was still in high school, and wow, just gonna say wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lindsay said she watched the remake the other day, thought it would be fun for a second go-round. Nope, sucked awful. Which remake is she talking about?
Probably Inside, I think.
Oh, Inside. Yeah, I haven't seen either. I actually have that movie, but I think it's a dub, like an English dub, and I can't watch English dubs at all because you don't get the actual performance. So, but anyway, I wanted to jump into some news before we cut out here. First thing, there's a trailer tomorrow for Terminator Dark Fate. I'll start with Cody on this. Are we excited for a new Terminator movie, or are we kind of like fed up with the franchise?
I'm certainly not fed up with the franchise, because even the 3 sequels that we've gotten since Judgment Day, I could still have fun with them. Like, they're not anywhere near the quality of the first 2, but there's not been a single Terminator movie that I've just flat out hated. I still get stupid fun out of them. So this one, it's if nothing else, maybe I'll get a little bit of that. But I'm hoping with James Cameron's involvement, however much that is, we don't know. The director of Deadpool doing it gives me a little bit more faith.
Yeah.
The fact that we're getting Linda Hamilton back, like, it seems like, it's a trend that's kind of annoying me, that everybody is like, okay, well, fuck it, we'll retcon everything and we'll Halloween 2018 this shit.
Yeah.
Because it seems like every franchise that wants to reboot, they're doing that. But that might be the best approach for Terminator. Go back to Judgment Day. They released the poster today. It says "Welcome to the day after Judgment Day," so it's a good place to start. You know what I mean? My concern is I don't know anything else about the movie other than, hey, Linda Hamilton's back. You know what I mean? And Arnold's coming back. I don't know what the story is. I don't know if John Connor's going to be in this. Is it going to be another recasting? Are they hiding Edward Furlong? Maybe. I don't know, and that's the thing. The trailer, hopefully it's not some bullshit, a minute and a half teaser where most of it's text. I hopefully actually give you like some kind of context for what the film's going to be. But I'm morbidly curious. I'll just say that.
At the last Spooky Empire, I approached Edward Furlong. I said to Edward Furlong, in my mind, there's only one John Connor, and that is you. He stared at me for 10 seconds of awkward silence. I turned around and walked away. It was the most awkward meeting with a celebrity that I've ever had. It was strange as fuck. Having said that, I wish, I would be curious. They'd have to get him in shape and everything, but I'd be curious to see if they actually brought back Edward Furlong, since they're retconning. And let's face it, after Genesis, that shit got really, really freaking confusing. So I'm kind of glad they're stripping it down, going back to the basics. Zach, what are your thoughts on this? Are you a big Terminator fan, and are you looking forward to this new one?
Man, I grew up with Judgment Day. I love it. I think that's a great movie. I thought the third one was terrible. I liked Salvation. I never saw Genesis. So I'm excited for it. I mean, it just, like, it all depends, like what Cody said, what the story is, who they bring back, how much involvement James Cameron's going to have, whether or not he's just a pen for a check.
It's a check.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to expect. I mean, bring Linda Hamilton back, and Arnold comes back for all of the movies except for Salvation. They got that
because he was governor.
Yeah, they got CGI'd him into Salvation, which admittedly is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite ones. I actually liked Christian Bale as John Connor.
I like Salvation a lot.
I do too. I actually like Salvation.
I really enjoyed it. I was disappointed that they weren't going to follow through with it, and they went back to, fuck it, bring Arnold back. Let's do it again.
Like I said, it just depends on what they see. I'm not going to judge it until I actually see like a trailer or the movie itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will admit, I'm excited for this trailer tomorrow. I am a Terminator fan. And it's just one of those franchises, though, that I know, like, this one's not going to be good. This one's not going to be good. But I'm hoping they prove me wrong, because I do love those first 2 movies, like, immensely. So if they can get this right, it would be pretty badass, actually. So I'm hoping, because Genesis, I remember leaving Genesis and thinking, that was interesting. And I never had the desire to watch it again, which is strange, like liking a movie and then saying, I don't know, I guess it's the same thing that happened to me with, what's the movie that came out last year about You Can't Talk?
Quiet Place?
Yeah, Quiet Place was the same thing for me. I haven't had the desire to watch A Quiet Place since I saw it. I don't know why. And
Just
it is a
watched
good
it
movie.
yesterday, oddly enough.
You did?
Yeah.
Check that out.
Literally.
That's strange.
Yeah.
So, CP, what are your thoughts on this Terminator movie? Are you excited?
Nope.
Straight to the point. That's what I love about CP.
Where they're gonna what are they? There's gonna have to be some sort of retconning because if Linda Hamilton's back, ooh.
That's the one thing I'm excited for. Like, I'm not even excited at all about Arnold because we've been there, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll say this: like the most interesting parts about the Terminator movies for me is this future that we hardly ever get to see. We only get to see like maybe 5 minutes of it in all of these movies. So if this movie takes place like 20 years after the original, you know, it just takes place. Yeah, it just takes place after this, and this has happened. We finally get to see this future, so that tells me that John Connor will possibly be in it. They could take it to a different direction instead of going back in time again or doing the same things over and over again like the series has already done.
So that's confirmed, though, right? This takes place after Judgment Day.
Yeah, they're acting like 3, 4, and 5 didn't exist.
Even though Linda Hamilton did a voice in Salvation. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they've done that with Halloween, too, so. I'm glad they're doing it that way, though. This instance, I'm glad they're doing it that way, so.
The first two Terminators are two of my all-time favourite films.
Yeah.
I absolutely love them. As much as I love Judgment Day, I still think the first Terminator slightly has the edge for me. Because I've got so much nostalgia from it. I watched that film so much as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of the first films like that we had on video. We taped it off TV, and I'd just watch it again and again and again. But I got excited for Genesis. I liked Salvation. The first 2/3 of that film are a flipping good Terminator film. And then that last 20 minutes just flipping loses it once you find out what the overall plan by Skynet was. It just doesn't make a right lot of logical sense. But
I will not give that order.
Well, if they had done
Terminator 3 is an absolute dog turd as far as I'm concerned. It's a real steaming pile of crap. And Genesis, I went into it excited because James Cameron had kind of gone on Twitter saying that, you know, he'd read the script and it was a really great direction, and he thought this was the film that was going to get Terminator back on track.
Of course he did.
If Cameron's saying that, then so with his involvement on this one, it doesn't quite hold as much water this time around as it did with Genesis. So I don't know. I like some of the images I've seen from it, particularly of Sarah Connor. I think Linda Hamilton looks in great shape for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Deadpool. I thought Tim Miller did a really good job with Deadpool. So we'll see. I hope. I'm really hopeful for it, but if it's rubbish, I think that's it. There's no more with this franchise. I think it just proves that it can't be done. But hey ho, we still got those first two classics, and that'll never change. So
can I just say one thing I did really like about Terminator 3 was Nick Stahl as John Connor.
No.
Am I alone?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's a good actor, actually. I
hated him. He had no charisma.
Behavior. He's a great actor.
He did not have any of the edge and the attitude and the badassness that even Edward Furlong as a teenager had. Like, it's not the same character at all. You get that one scene where he's like, "Let go of me, you fucking machine." He's like, "All right, there you go." That's it. Other than that, you're like, this guy's the leader of the free world? No.
It's like he stepped out from Mean Girls or something. He should have been in a rom-com. The character he was playing in that. It was just I was not convinced one iota that this is the guy who would lead the revolt against the machines. Not in the slightest.
If they brought like I said, if they brought Nick Stahl's version of his character from Disturbing Behavior and put him in Terminator 3, I think it would have been way more interesting because that character is very similar to John Connor from Part 2.
Yeah.
The thing with Part 3 as well that really gets on my nerves is so they bring the TX in, Kristanna Loken. You know, it's the next step in the evolution of the Terminator, and yet when you think about it, it's not as evolved as the T1000, is it? You've got the T1000, which is
the TX was stupid.
The TX had a skeleton inside which could be destroyed and was surrounded by the liquid metal. It was ridiculous. The whole film was just a joke. I hated it. Really hated it.
Yeah, all right.
You didn't like the talk to the hand?
Oh.
Talk to the hand. And he had those stupid glasses on.
Oh, stupid glasses.
And he had old man ass. Oh, that's great. Okay. Next thing I got to talk about before we leave is The Collector 3. I know. Me and Cody are happy for that.
Fuck yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to Zach on this one. Are you a fan of the Collector series, Zach?
Only hell yes. I love the first one. I'm not as high on the second one as Cody are. I liked the movie all the way up until the very end. It gets really over the top, and I'm just like, I like it when it's a little bit more contained. It felt really Hollywood at the end, but I really enjoyed both of them. Doesn't mean that I don't like the second one.
Yeah.
When the poster came out for The Collector 3, I said, this has got to be just something that they put together really quick to throw up on Twitter. And lo and behold, it was, because The Collector 3 is now called The Collected, and I nailed it. I thought that is exactly what it should have been called from the beginning. I'm really excited to see where the story goes. I hope it's not the Collector versus Arkin, because I don't feel like we can follow the Collector the entire time. I think Arkin is that lifeblood from the first two that you need to follow to make the story really interesting. But if it is the Collector versus Arkin, hey, that's a different direction to go. I know it's the same team that brought us the first two.
Yeah.
So,
that's important.
Hey, I'm really excited.
Are you excited that Arkin's in this one? If he's in this one?
Yes, because Josh Stewart is a great actor.
Hell
Fantastic. He's one of the best parts of Insidious 4.
I forget. Yeah, I don't even think did I see. Yeah, I saw Insidious 4. I barely remember it though. Yeah. Cody, give me your thoughts on that, because I know you're a big Collector fan. You're the one that turned me back on to the Collector and made me watch the Collection. Right.
I love the Collector, and I love the Collection too. I think the Collector's definitely the stronger of the two films. The Collection does get a little bit bigger than it should be, but at the same time, I think the Collection has one of the greatest horror movie endings of all time. Like when I saw that ending in the theater, and I'm not going to spoil it because anybody that has not seen the Collector or the Collection should go see it. Shut the fuck up, Jax. But you have that last 2 or 3 minutes, what they decided to do with the story. When I was in the theater, I was like, it's about fucking time somebody had the balls to do this. And it's still, whenever I get to the end, I'm like, oh, I'm so pumped.
Cody, I wish you would not have even told me that there was, this awesome scene. Because now, when I was watching the Collection, I was waiting for that. I was like, Cody told me this is going to be this amazing thing. And so you kind of, built it way too high for me. So when it happened, I was like, yeah, that was cool.
Revenge.
Fuck you, Cody Leach.
It's... Get off me. Sit down. It is... It's an ending that I love so much where I'm like, if there's going to be a Collector 3, hell yes, a great place to end it. But if this is it, this is also a great place to leave it. But the fact that they're doing another one, it's the same director, the same team, which is the only way they should do it. Arkin's coming back. I think even the daughter from the second one is coming back. I'm extremely excited about it because it's just, there's so much that they could still squeeze out of that franchise and that character that it would be a crime to not at least consider it. And I'm glad that they're not even considering it, they're actually doing it.
With it being called The Collected, and it possibly being the Collector versus Arkin the entire time, how do you feel about that?
I'm fine with it.
Do you think the Collector can hold the entire movie?
Yeah, because I told you, all three movies, well, I haven't seen the third one, obviously, but the first one's a very different film than the second one. So if they take that approach, I feel like it's going to be more small scale, not quite as batshit crazy as the second one, then all three films will end up having their own flavor, and it'll be a really cool trilogy.
One thing I will say about the collector that really grabbed me was it's a hard movie, but I'm not into like torture porn. But that movie has elements of torture porn, but the story is so damn good and riveting that I couldn't help but keep watching. And I think that's a testament to Marcus Dunstan. I mean, he did such a great job handling over-the-top violence in that movie and still, keeping you interested because, you want to know what's going to happen. Is Arkin going to get out of this situation, It's just it's an irresistible plot, too. CP, are you a fan of the Collector?
Yes. Only seen both of them once, and that was fairly recently, but I'm watching them again soon.
Now, Bryan, I want to leapfrog this because somebody mentioned this in the chat, and we have to talk about Robert Pattinson playing Batman. If we can talk about it for a good 5 minutes, I got to know everybody's thoughts about this. I'll go last. I'll start with the Batman fanatic. Bryan, your thoughts on Robert Pattinson?
All I'm going to say is when Heath Ledger was cast as the Joker, people crapped all over it.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, what are they thinking? They got the dude from A Knight's Tale to play the Joker. No. Anyway, fast forward, Oscar-winning performance. Then after that, Ben Affleck gets cast as Batman, and the internet runs rife with people saying, "Oh no, you can't have this." Ben Affleck, the guy who did Daredevil, Jiggly, what? No, sorry, no. It's just, when are we going to learn? When are we going to learn that actually we are sat on this side of the fence, and the people making the movie who know exactly what they are going for are sat on the opposite side of the fence? They know the movie they're trying to make. They know what's right for that movie. We don't, because we ain't seen dick. So can we please?
That's not always true.
Well, are we talking about Brokeback Mountain? CP.
Let's just wait for the trailer.
Yeah.
And let's see what we don't even know what the vibe is of this particular iteration of the character. And when you go throughout the 80-year history of Batman, he's been done in so many different fashions. There is I don't give a toss what anyone says, there is no one definitive way of doing Batman. There might be a definitive version for you, the version you hold up on a pedestal, but there is no one Batman. So let's see what vibe they're going for. I trust the director. He did the last two films in one of the best trilogies ever made, with the Planet of the Apes trilogy that they did. So, yeah, bring it. Pattinson, other than Twilight, people can't throw any junk at him because actually his career since Twilight has been pretty damn good. So, yeah, people need to shut up and wait for stuff to be released.
Lori says if Batman starts sparkling, she's calling the police. I'm with you on that one, Lori.
He played the character. He is an actor.
Yeah, and you brought up Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger already had two strong performances under his belt before he even did the Joker in Monsters Ball and Brokeback Mountain. The guy completely transformed himself for those roles, and people still bitched. That just goes to show how stupid people are, I guess. CP, give me your thoughts on Batman.
I half agree with Bryan that we need to take it the fuck easy before anything comes out regarding anything, footage, anything with the film. However, where I disagree is, Bryan, would you say on our side we don't know what the hell's going on, but on the other side they do know? There are some moments where the filmmakers really are a bit lost and make some mistakes. I can only think of Sony Pictures and 90% of their decisions they make. So, yes, we don't know anything. We can't judge anything yet. But at the same time, they have screwed up in the past. Suicide Squad being the most recent time I could think of with comic material that just kind of flew out there. But yeah, it's kind of, anybody is skeptical and thinking of Twilight, go watch Good Time.
Yeah.
He's
and The Rover.
Good. I haven't seen that.
The Rover is a very strong performance by him. If I had to pick apart Pattinson, I would say he could project a little bit more, maybe speak up a little bit, because he's a great actor in some of those roles, but even in those roles, he kind of, I don't know, he's not a loud guy, I guess you could say.
Is that not perfect for Batman?
It kind of is. So I'll shut up now. As long as he doesn't talk like this. Where were the drugs?
Swear to me.
Swear to me. I don't think he's going to do that.
Throat cancer Batman.
But I don't want him to say, where were the drugs? I don't want him to do that either. So.
I doubt he'll do that.
Yeah. Where are the drugs? Swear to me. What's my motivation?
They could go like with what they did with Ben Affleck and have the voice box thing.
Yeah.
That's the smartest thing to do. When I did that, I was like, that's a lot better.
Yeah.
Zach, give me your opinion on Patman.
Well, I'm down for it because I've seen a lot of Robert Pattinson's work post Twilight. People have to remember the last Twilight movie came out in 2012. He's done a lot since then, and this is confirmed, I believe, to be a younger version of Ben Affleck version of Batman. So he'll probably have the voice modulator to change his voice to make him sound more menacing when he's in the shadows and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm excited because I think he's a great actor, and I just think this is a thing that you need to let breathe. Imagine if Nicholas Hoult was cast as Batman, and all the memes you'd see of Beast with a bat cowl.
Yeah.
So, it could be a lot funnier. But I'm down for it. Like, I was one of the people that was actually for Ben Affleck being casted as Batman when BVS was in its early production. So I'm completely open for it. When people are a cast, I'm not going to completely hate the idea without seeing anything. I have to see it first. I have to see what version of the character this is going to be. I know Matt Reeves said that this is going to be a year one-ish Batman. So he will probably be experienced, but not as experienced as he would be in the newer DC films or the DC films that have already came out.
I kind of think Nicholas Hoult would have been an interesting choice too. Just to kind of repeat what Megan was saying there in the chat.
I saw somebody bring up. This is completely divorcing from the Robert Pattinson talk, but I saw somebody bring up Dark Knight Returns. Is that what the comic was called? Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
And Michael Keaton is the perfect age for that. And I certainly.
Oh,
interest. I was
bring back Tim Burton.
Dude, that could be interesting.
Throw in Brad Dourif as Joker. I'd be
sure.
Can you imagine the internet if that was announced that they were bringing back Batman with Tim Burton and Michael Keaton? Like, it would be insane. I think everyone would eat it up.
I don't understand why they can't have several different movies on the go at once. Because you have it in the comic book world. You have.
Well, that's what the Joker movie is going to be. So I think if that succeeds, that's what their plan is, so they can do side stuff without messing with the universe.
Yeah. I know that a much older version of Batman has been cast for Titans. That Ian Glenn, who played Jorah Mormont on Game of Thrones, is going to play Batman on Titans.
Oh, really?
The character, yeah.
That's like an animated version, right?
No, it's live action.
Really?
He's going to play an older version of Batman. But why can't they just, if they want to bring back Michael Keaton, just do a limited series, a few episodes, maybe like 8 episodes long, Batman Beyond, cast a younger version of Batman, cast him as the character, everybody gets what they want.
Only comic book fans know what Batman Beyond is, though.
Yeah. Now, I will say, when after Ben Affleck left, I was upset because I really liked Ben Affleck and his role as Batman. And I was so upset that I was just like, at this point, I don't even care who plays Batman. I'm kind of done with the character now because I'm just, so many people have played the guy, it's annoying to me. And then they announced Robert Pattinson. I got interested. There was something about that casting. I was like, I like it when they cast against type. And to me, it was interesting. It's like, oh, what if he ends up being like amazing? This could be, because Batman's not like the Joker. He is a more subdued type of character. So there's less room to play with the character, I think. So I'm kind of interested to see what Pattinson can do with him, because Pattinson is kind of a subdued type of words are hard type of actor. So yeah, I'm kind of curious.
Ben Affleck got the short end of the stick there because he was with Warner Brothers at a time where they had no idea what they were doing with those movies, and they could not make a decision on anything. So when he had a story, they completely blew it away. Like, we're not doing that. We're going in a completely different direction. He didn't get to direct it anymore. He's not writing it anymore. He never got to be in his own movie.
What's Marvel doing? Yeah, that's kind of what it turned into, which is frustrating.
Let's do the Justice League without absolutely no build-up at all. Man of Steel 2? We don't want to see that.
Mm.
Yeah. Cody, you got some sinister lighting going on there.
Yeah, I know. We'll close it off with Cody's thoughts on Pattinson, and then we'll start wrapping this thing up.
I mean, amazing timing, Riley.
We'll get Riley's opinion.
There we go. He's not who I would have picked, but I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? Like, just like Bryan said, we never know what it's going to be like. It might sound weird on paper, and you'll see the movie, and you're like, dude, nobody else could play Batman except for, Robert Pattinson. That's what I thought when I was a Ben Affleck fan, but after I saw what he did, I was like, Ben Affleck for life as far as Batman. I think even Michael Keaton got a lot of backlash when he was cast because he was like the comedy guy at the time. But I mean, you don't even just see this in Batman; you see it all over the place. I mean, who thought that Bruce Willis was going to be the action star that he was before he did Die Hard? The guy was in like Moonlighting and stuff like that.
Huh? Go see Shane and Bella, okay?
But you see this all the time with actors where you're like, what? They cast him as what? And then all of a sudden it's awesome. We don't know what the story is. We don't know what the approach is, but I know one thing. I trust in Matt Reeves.
Yeah, there
he
you
has
go.
a huge play into what they're doing, because if he did not have a lot of creative control, they would have already released this movie. He's taking his sweet-ass time because he wants it to be on par with his other films. Take her. Riley, go play. But she just woke up. So
he said play, not cry. He said play.
Yeah. She just woke up, so she's a little pissed off. But carry on, guys. I gotta put her.
Okay. Let's see what Fuego thinks.
Wait, is Fuego here?
No. Inside joke. Sorry. Please don't watch to the end of the stream, Cecil. Okay. Anyway, we're going to close this thing off. I got to say, Dylan Clancy, we miss you so much, brother. The memories that I have and all these guys have with you, and so many people in Killer Flicks have with you, there's a lot of tears out there right now. And I'm kind of glad we waited a little bit to do this stream, because I was a wreck after, for at least a week after I got the news. So I'm glad that we waited a little bit so I can kind of collect myself and just kind of celebrate Dylan's life, because I think that's what Dylan would have wanted. Dylan was one of the most giving, most generous, most honest people I've ever met, and I will never, ever meet another Dylan Clancy. That's really, I hate to, it's hard to leave a stream like this, because I miss him terribly. So I'm sure every time I throw in like Tenebrae, Dylan's going to pop in my mind. And before I leave, I'll open the floor. If any, like Zach, any kind of words you want to say about Dylan before we leave this thing, even if it's a sentence, just something.
Well, I think he's just a great guy that's going to be really missed. He was always there for me when I needed him. So if people can be like that with other people moving forward, I mean, that's awesome. The horror genre lost a really, really good person when he left. Very few people loved horror more than him. Very few. And I'm just going to miss him.
Yeah. CP?
Cunt. I was told to say that.
You stole my word. I can say it again, though. Bryan? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, this is kind of a parallel thing. Dylan was quite candid and open about his struggles with abuse. And I think he would want somebody to bring this up, so I'll be the person to bring it up who's dealt with it personally. If you know somebody who's struggling with any sort of addiction, reach out. Sometimes they won't reach out and ask for help, but reaching out if you see it, just check in, and there's not much you can do, but just letting somebody know you're there, you never know what that could do.
Great words, CP. Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, I can only reiterate that, like I say, I didn't know Dylan as well as most people that have moved in our circle, and I guess that in itself is quite tragic, because given how people have talked about him, it makes me think that I wish I did know him better.
Thank you, Bryan.
Love to his family anyway, and especially through this time.
Cody?
Yeah, I pretty much echo everything Bryan just said. Killer Flicks certainly won't feel exactly the same. The mod chat for sure won't feel exactly the same. So it's definitely, regardless of how much I knew him or how much I didn't know him, there is a little bit of a small piece of life that's not going to feel the same. So hopefully he's at peace and at a better place.
Yeah, and I'm glad CP brought it up. I think addiction, it's just another crutch that we all have. We all have our crutches. We all have things in our life that are a little bit left of center that we would like to put back into balance. And so, I think I don't judge anybody with addiction. I have it in my life. It's very close to me. So, it's still a shock, when you lose someone to whatever, so it's tough for me to deal with this, because Dylan's something that is like Derek. We did this thing with Derek, who died of cancer a year ago, and Derek's still in my life. There's still these moments that pop up when I'll just think of Derek. I could watch a De Palma film, and there's Derek. Same thing with Dylan. Every time I watch Lords of Salem, every time I watch Kill Bill, especially Kill Bill, there would just be moments I'll miss. And I mentioned this to all the other guys, and I'm sure Zach can attest to this too, that I wish you guys knew Dylan when I knew him, because the first year that I met Dylan, and then when he kind of dropped off and had his own issues, it was a special relationship, and he was one of the most giving, kind people I've ever met. And so I was telling the guys, it's like, I wish to God you guys could have shared that friendship like I shared with Dylan. And it's a gift. It really is a gift, and that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. So last thing I want to say to Robin Clancy, I'm so sorry for what your family's going through right now. And I know this stream is just a small token of what we can give you. But you know what? We made a new friend out of this. Robin, she's. I will definitely keep in contact with you. And it was a pleasure meeting you. And you are. I can tell that Dylan. I can see where he gets his kindness from. It's in his family. So we thank you all for being with us, though. And I guess this will be goodbye. I'm not going to ask CP. No, we will ask CP. CP, will you take us out?
Well, actually, you know what? Lindsay said it, and it pretty much is the word for the day. So today's edible panty flavor should be a crotchless panty, and we're going to call it cunt. Today's edible panty flavor is cunt.
I like it. So. Good night, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. We miss you, Dylan. Rip, brother.